Hello and welcome to the Ideas Factory. Today I have with me the distinguished fellow of ORF, Kanchan Gupta, and we are going to talk all about the NRC, the National Register of Citizens, and understand why was the NRC needed. Now that the final list is out, what do we do with all those people who've been excluded from the list? Welcome to the Ideas Factory, Mr. Gupta. And I want to begin by asking that the current predicament of NRC, what is behind it? Do you think we are caught in a situation where it's very difficult to get out because you have a list of people, about 19 lakh people who are out of the list? What do we do with all those people? That's a big question.
So there are three parts to what you have asked. Let me just very quickly tell you about the background to it. NRC is not a recent discovery. It is not a new invention. This is something which should have been done nationally after the Citizenship Act came into force. We did not have a Citizenship Act till much after India's independence. Once the Citizenship Act came into force and a definition was put into place for who is an Indian citizen, the Act also provided for the government to conduct a national register of citizens drive, enumerate them, and more importantly provide every citizen of the country with an identity document. Successive governments between 1952 and 2019 have horribly failed in fulfilling that part of their responsibility. Now we come to Assam. Assam has a history and a background of migration, wave after wave of migration, and that predates 1947. For political reasons, for social reasons, for economic reasons, there have been several waves of migrations. So when the students' agitation happened, subsequently, because the Assamese kept on blocking an NRC till proper checks and balances were brought in and a definition for a cutoff year was provided. So after the students' agitation, the center signed an agreement and the rest is history. Even after that, the center failed to conduct the NRC and the Supreme Court then ordered intervened and conducted it under the Supreme Court's own supervision. Now, there is a problem here. The problem is that you have allowed a situation to prevail where for some 7 decades you have not counted your own people. Today when you try to count them, there are bound to be problems, there are bound to be mistakes, there are bound to be errors, and I'm sorry to say this, our bureaucracy, especially the lower bureaucracy, the Tehsildar and the block development officer and things like that, who are involved in the process, for a wide variety of reasons. I'm not imputing any motives, I don't know them. They may not have been able to conduct a free and fair NRC. Is it also because the time constraint, like the RSS
No, I don't think so. Joint General Secretary Dattatreya Hospole just pointed out that there was this nishchit samay, the time-bound pressure by the Supreme Court, because of which there have been these errors.
No, Naghma, these are the ifs and buts of history. But the Supreme Court, obviously, if the Supreme Court is doing it, it does not have the pleasure or the leisure of a political entity like the government. So it has to work within time frames. Number one. Number two, at some point you had to cut it off. Otherwise it would have become a long drawn process and the fallout of that perhaps would have been far worse. Now, what the Assam government is proposing, I think that makes some sense, that there are some 8 odd districts, 5 especially, where they want a sample. They want to revisit and do a retesting of 20% and then 10% and things like that. So that is possibly one solution, and it should be very seriously looked at. Second, I come to this point that so many people who have finally been left out. So you have about roughly 2 million people who have been left out.
They will also be now given exclusion certificates. They can move the court. They will appeal. But what do we do? There are apparently centers being erected where they will be kept. But what do you see? What is the future? They will be in those camps. But what if they do not prove their citizenship and they are finally illegal immigrants? What happens then?
Well, there is nothing. I mean, I don't think they will be given the status of an illegal immigrant. They have no papers to prove their point of origin or their country of origin. And that is something which is universally true. We have Indians who go and disappear across Europe. We have Indians who go and disappear across US. US has about 500,000 designated or estimated illegal aliens from India.
Yes.
Now what people do is that they rid themselves of all documentation. So when you are confronted, there is nothing that you can pin down on them, on their identity.
Absolutely.
So I don't think the question, and look, even if you were to declare them as Bangladeshis, for argument's sake, who have illegally crossed into India and stayed over here, Bangladesh under no circumstances is going to take back 2 million people. So what do you do with them? Now, you may remember that during NDA 1, when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister, Mr. Advani as Home Minister had suggested a solution. What he had said is that we have to take a national view. It can't be just Assam today. I think now Manipur wants it.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow Kerala might want it. And it will go on. So you have to take a national view. You have to do a national exercise. Your new census is coming up. 2021 census is coming up. And originally the idea was that the NRC will not be a non-enumerative exercise. I'm talking of 70 years ago.
Yes.
What does that mean? That means that if the census person comes to your house, he will not ask you to show any documentation. He will just ask you for your name, for your age, for your demographic profile and things like that, and move on. So, and therefore you become a part of the National Register. Next time when it happens and somebody says that I am Naghma, they will say, no, sorry, you can't be Naghma because we already have Naghma on our register. I'm just, dumbing it down, the process. But that is how it was supposed to be done. So the 2021 exercise is coming up. Do it.
Okay.
And you have a national register of citizens. Then if in that process you find there are we are talking of 2 million in Assam, so supposing nationally there are 10 million or 20 million. I think a closer figure is 20 million because I'm going by Home Ministry answers in Parliament which talked about that many people. So what do you do with them? Number one, I don't think you can sort of throw them out.
Like many countries, for example, like America has sometimes forcibly deported people. India, being India, cannot do that. Like you said, Bangladesh is not going to take those people
forcibly
back.
Deporting where? You see, to a very quick response, like every time America approaches the government of India, that please take back this 500,000 illegal aliens from your country. What do we say? We say that prove that they are from India.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So similarly, Bangladesh.
So in that case, how do you see, how has Bangladesh handled this crisis?
So that is where Mr. Advani's, I think, wise suggestion should be revisited.
Of doing a national register of citizen nationally.
Nationally, you zero in, there will be, I'm sorry, but there will be some errors, there will be some these things, but at least an exercise would have been conducted and then it can keep on going on. And then these people, they have the right to work, they have the right to own property, they have the right to live life. They live their lives as any other citizen, as you and me.
So
but they will not have the right to vote.
Okay. All right. So there cannot be the vote bank that has been the case till
Yes.
now. That's the big difference
But
that it's going
again,
to
the question comes in
make. Yeah.
that how do you, I mean, doesn't that amount to disenfranchising people?
Absolutely.
But no, it doesn't, because we already have in our law and in our constitution the provision for disenfranchisement.
But Mr. Gupta, there's another, BJP is also now very keen to bring in the Citizenship Amendment Bill. Even the RSS has now asked them to pass it, to expedite it. Now with the Citizenship Amendment Bill, all those people who are they follow Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, they will get the citizenship of India, not in Christianity, not in 12 years, but in 7 years. So a lot of people who've been excluded in the NRC have a hope to be part of the Indian state because of this amendment bill. Who will you exclude now? The Muslims. So the question is that it is in a way targeting just the Muslim population. And when you talk of disenfranchising, while you give them all the rights, you don't give them the right to vote. Yeah, so this one section of the society would be disenfranchised. That's the worry also.
When I second the idea of disenfranchising illegal aliens, I say that because our politics has been debased, like politics as we are witnessing right now across Europe.
Yes.
So it's not only in India that it is a problem. It is now a problem the world over.
Absolutely.
In America, the constituency Mr. Trump is appealing to is anti-immigration. So you have to have.
We've seen it in Germany, in many other countries.
Any other countries? Yeah. In England.
Yeah, in England.
Perfectly normal people. I mean, people with whom you would go out to a pub and enjoy an evening. They issue the most absurd statements because they have to mind their constituency. So we need to end that.
And
it is for India's overall
these people
benefit.
would be a solution.
So now, when you mention the Citizenship Amendment Bill, the origin of the Citizenship Amendment Bill was that you have Hindus and Sikhs fleeing from Pakistan and seeking shelter in India. Recently, a former MLA, a Sikh former MLA of Pakistan has sought shelter over here.
Yeah.
You can't throw them out. They can't work over here. They can't settle down over here. You have to have some sort of a solution for them. You have, although it is not discussed, you have Sikhs in Afghanistan wanting to migrate to India. In the past, in the 1990s, we had a huge problem with thousands of Chakma refugees from Bangladesh seeking refuge in India. India doesn't have a refugee policy. We do not officially acknowledge refugees. We are not signatories to any refugee agreements which exist globally. So how do we deal with them?
Yeah.
So the best way to deal with them is that if you really believe that this is your second home and this shall be your home now on, please become citizens and we will expedite the process.
There are also concerns that only 19 lakh people have been excluded because they were probably, earlier the figures were about 41 lakhs, and there was a hope that if these many people were excluded, and a lot of them would have been Hindus, again with the Citizenship Amendment Bill.
I think in the new exclusion list, I am told, I have no absolute knowledge of it, but people who know, they have told me that most of the excluded are Hindus.
So they have hopes with the Citizenship Amendment Bill to come in.
Well, the others got in through the other way around by bribing the Tehsildar.
But most of them seem to be most of the people actually seem to be unhappy with the current list, the NRC list, except for those who you say could have bribed their way in the list. So there is hope for all those.
No, I didn't say that everybody bribed his way.
No, some of them who managed to get in would be happy.
As I said, and it could have been just sheer incompetence.
Yes.
It could have been sheer fatigue. You know, the process goes on and on and on. And this guy says, yeah, I mean, what am I doing over here? Give me your papers. Yeah, okay, put his name in.
So now, do you think all these, a majority of the Hindus also who've been excluded, the BJP is trying to correct the error by expediting the Citizenship Amendment Bill?
But I just explained to you.
Yeah. So
The point of origin of the Citizenship Amendment Bill dates back to a time when the Narendra Modi government actually delegated a very strictly held central power and authority to some state governments to decide on citizenship, to expedite the process of settling or at least providing a livable condition to refugees coming in from Pakistan or Afghanistan. And similarly, it's one of the tragedies that has never been talked about, written about, spoken about. The refugees from East Pakistan who came in, they never got the leg up which refugees from West Pakistan got. I am the child of refugees, of refugee parents. So I know what we had to go through. So this is a non-debatable option. The Citizenship Act must be amended. It must accommodate the right of Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs to return to the land which is the only land they can call their own, if they are being excluded by the countries where they grew up, of which they were citizens, and now they are being thrown out or rejected or persecuted. Why is it that in Bangladesh, in India, we don't have a Christian, Hindu, Buddhist solidarity? We don't have an organization representing Christian interests, Buddhist interests, and Hindu interests. But why is it that in Bangladesh you have an organization that represents these three very diverse and different faiths? Because they are united by the persecution they face.
Okay. So one very final question, that when we talk about also the Muslims who are settled in Assam, it's a very complex issue because there are many categories of Muslims who came in. There were the early settlers who came in like in the 19th century. Then there were people who came between 47 to 71 and those who came after the cutoff date. So all this leads to a very complicated situation of on what basis the exclusions are being done. Identifying the migrants is a huge problem also, and which is why the errors have been done. And then it's been done in a great hurry. But you said there has to be the court had to give a time limit.
Yeah, court, as I said, that a government, supposing the government of India sets up a commission of inquiry.
Yeah.
And we all know, commissions of inquiry keep on getting extension after extension after extension.
Yeah.
But when the judiciary orders an inquiry, it cannot keep on giving extension after extension because the judiciary works within a time frame.
Yeah. But then the identifying the migrants without victimizing the citizen would have required probably more deft handling. Do you think so?
You see, if you had carried out this exercise in 1960, if you had carried out this exercise in 1971, immediately after the liberation war of Bangladesh, when Indira Gandhi made it very clear and made it very clear openly, not surreptitiously and slyly, that India shall not accept even one refugee who came in because of the war. Whether you are a Hindu or a Muslim, you must go back. At that time, apart from the political reasons, one of the reasons was that we did not have the money to sustain them.
Yes.
People had to buy special postage stamps to feed the refugees. Today, perhaps we are not in that situation where we don't have the money. But there are political fallouts which come from social friction, cultural friction, and more importantly, a country cannot be a free zone. No country works like that. So, recently a journalist from Sweden wanted to, very excited that, this, that, how can you have a citizenship register, etc. I said, today if I land up in your country and I say, I'm not going back, what are you going to do? So her instant reaction was that we will deport you.
Yeah.
So, it's sad we never did it, and I keep on telling everyone, it is not our mistake. It is not the mistake of people who came in, people who are protesting. The government of India as an institution has singularly failed in preparing, updating and maintaining a national citizenship register.
Which has led to all this
Which
right
has
now,
created
of course. And then Amit Shah reiterated recently that the term he used, no ghuspaitiya will be allowed anywhere, not only in Assam but all across India. So, keeping with the core principle of BJP, we probably shall see something like this kind of exercise in other states as well.
I think, I see, as a Bengali, I would like a similar exercise to be conducted in West Bengal, as much in India's interest as in Bangladesh's interest. All the undesirable elements of Bangladesh are now camping in West Bengal.
But then Mamata Banerjee is there to protect.
I'm not taking names, I'm just saying.
She's just,
see, look,
she just
we
said
get,
that she's going to fight it tooth and nail, the NRC, and
well,
she's going to lead the protest.
I mean, she can keep on protesting, but that's a different. This is what I was saying. That the politics over citizenship is very tragic.
And the politics is probably not going to end.
Well, if you feed politics, it will never end.
Thank you so much, Kanchan Gupta, for explaining what the NRC means, why was it needed, and what is needed to be done now. Thank you so much.